that's why people like veteran NFL kickers, is because they've been through so many ups and downs. They will generally make more of those fourth quarter kicks.
They call me the Iceman.
I tried to make the world shrink to about a 3-yard by 3-yard little spot. I couldn't even really see the front line in front of me. It was my holder and me and my few little steps.
For you guys that may know Brett but don't know, I mean, the guy knows what he's talking about.
Man, y'all order my dog's book, man. The Kicker's Bible.
Roll another one 'cause I'm winning in my photo.
Welcome, specialists, coaches, dads of kickers, moms of punters, and relatives of long snappers to the Iceman Podcast. It's the show with cold question and even cooler guests, and I'm your host, as always, Brett Arkelian. Very fired up. I'm joined by a one-of-a-kind guest, someone who has seen it all from a kicking, punting, long snapping, special teams perspective, all right? He runs Kohl's professional camps. He trains many of the NFL starters that you see today and you watch on television. He had one of maybe the most viral clips of a punting video that I've ever seen, Jamie, was the Marquette King, Thomas Morstead, Pat McAfee videos. So that's something I remember from a young age and is one of the most credible sources for NFL and college coaches when it comes to kicking and punting. Jamie, welcome to the show today.
Yeah, good to be here. Excited to talk and hopefully cover some topics that might help people in 2024. It's a difficult time to navigate. We talk about that at all of our camps with the parents and stuff that you and I went through when we were playing. And you know, even as recently as 5 to 7 years ago, things have continued to change. Obviously, with the NIL, with the portal. And college football is in a constant state of change right now. So trying to help, I really do have a sincere interest in trying to help high school players. I think that that's an area and a group that it's not, path is not easily laid out. And not only for specialists, but for all positions. When you're talking with college coaches, at some prominent high schools, St. Thomas, Aquinas, IMG, big time schools that normally land 25, 30 guys. Even their numbers at all positions have been hurt as far as recruiting goes. And so it only, again, just goes back to some of our core beliefs is even if you're a specialist and you're really good, you got to continue to get better. If you're not very good, then you probably need to honestly use the portal as a tool to get to where you want to. Because quite frankly, you might be 2 to 3 years out and you might have to think about going to different schools, smaller schools where there's opportunity in an attempt to get to your end goal. Because as you know, a lot of specialists make a lot of improvement, between the years of 18 to 21, not only in a physical aspect and the consistency aspect, but more so in a mental aspect. And that's something that we're talking to a lot of people about. And some people will be open to that idea and others won't be open to that idea. And then there's some people that are just really, really good. I mean, we had a nice tailwind this weekend in Chicago. We had a high school kid who's got 4 or 5 offers, hit a 91-yard kickoff, and he's going to be good no matter what field he steps foot on. So for him, there's different rules. And, so trying to help people where they're at and find a way to participate in college football if they have that desire. Man, that's changed my life. It's changed a lot of people's lives. And that's why, again, I just have a real sincere desire to try to educate and try to help people given the current landscape. It's as confusing as ever. And I mean, we have a lot of people's, at our camp. Some of them are NFL GMs and college coaches, NFL coaches, and they don't know exactly how to attack this process. So it's definitely a time period where if you're a beginner parent or an older parent, that has a couple people who have played college sports, it's still something that I think is a little bit tricky to try to figure out.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I agree with a lot of that stuff you say. God, 91-yard kickoff. That's like video game numbers that you got out there.
Yeah, it was. We had to check to make sure it was right. But it was pretty windy. Nothing against what he accomplished, but he definitely took advantage of the conditions that day.
Yeah, yeah. And Jamie, you hit on a lot of good stuff there. And I think the educating the specialist part, that's so hard. And because you've been through it, and we've kind of been through, we understand what it takes. But for a lot of those kids, we can kind of get started in that. What is the biggest misconception for them, or what's the question that you always have to answer when you're talking to these parents or high school athletes that are trying to find a home?
I think one of the things is know who you are. If you're a snapper that's 5 feet 9 inches tall but can run, all right, cool. I mean, try to go to a program that's not going to ask you to do a lot in protection. What's your what type of concepts are you installing from a long snap and short snap perspective, and are you a good fit? If you're 6'4" and you're long, and maybe you're not the fastest down the field, well then, okay, let's look at those, the programs that might want those. Now, obviously, if you're 6'4", long, and you can run well, well then you have a lot of options. If you're a field goal guy that gets really good height on the ball, consistent rotation, consistent ball striker, very coordinated. When you finish, you're on balance. When you finish, the ball looks similar, the flight path. Those types of guys, man, they have tremendous value, but a lot of times they're not the guys at a college camp or in front of a college coach that will get the whole staff fired up like, oh, that's our guy. You prove your worth by being a part of, a summer camp, meaning, if you're invited to fall camp, with the program, and you have 30 practices before your first game, and all of a sudden you look and you're hitting 85% of your kicks and everybody else is hitting 65, 70%. Well, obviously, that's the way you're going to earn your spot. If a program is looking for a kickoff guy and they already have a senior or junior field goal guy that they feel good about, and you can add value by being able to kick the ball from A to B, with great hang time, great distance, and consistency, that might be something that you can do. If you're a punter that can kick off, one thing that we're really working on this year that I would tell all high school punters, we are really working on the rollout stuff. I don't like it. I think it's a way that was started 10 to 15 years ago to potentially protect coaches from a blocking perspective, and then also from a coverage perspective, to have to be as good at coaching some of the fundamentals and details and being able to hit up, find a punter that can actually punt with a live snap and a catch and a get off time of 1.3 seconds. That's very difficult for high school players to do, and it takes years to really master, and you have to really be technically sound in order to do some of those things. Now, a lot of programs are, mixing up the launch point from the pocket and then rolling out. And that gives, a special teams coordinator a lot of tools and options depending on the team they're facing and depending on the rush that they're facing. And then obviously you don't need a huge leg. You just need to have good rotation and be able to put the ball where you want it and get the ball to bounce and roll away from a returner. So those are things that I think the mindset has to continue to change. I know at the high school level, they do a lot of that. And honestly, from what we've seen at our camps the last 10 years, in the pocket punting has not been as good. The golden era was probably, 10 years ago, and maybe the 10 years previous, where we would have a bunch of athletes being able to hit consistent punts that spiraled and turned over and got good hang time. And now if you see a young man like that, it's much more of a rare occurrence. So I do think that, high school punters learning to be able to punt from the pocket, which is still highly, highly valued at the NFL level and most college programs, is important. But you have to be able to roll out. You have to be able to read the defenders, be able to read the contain player once it gets close to the shield, being able to pull the pin quickly and get it off, and then be able to keep your eyes up and be able to read the returner and punt away from the returner, or make it so that the returner can't catch the ball on the run coming at you. So to me, it's just something, again, I felt maybe we as a camp have not done a good enough job the last 10 years of adapting, and we're really making a push this year to try to get up with the times of college football and what coaches are looking for.
I agree. There's definitely a gap between high school and Aussie punters. So you guys working rollout at your camps definitely helps bridge that gap. So talk a little bit now, Coach Kohl, about your journey. We talked about you being a 4-year starter for the Cyclones at Iowa State. What got you into coaching? Why do this crazy business, this crazy thing?
Pretty much out of necessity. I had a nice career. I was a 4-year starter. I started 44 games in a row, which is probably my greatest accomplishment of not getting replaced. Some of the stuff I talk about is, in spring ball, you'd look back and there'd be 10 guys in your line. And that's something that I try to tell, a lot of these guys that go on to college football is how competitive it is at the Division One level, not only Power Five, but Group of Five. I mean, shoot, there's a lot of FCS guys who have played in the NFL. There's good players everywhere. And the whole key is development, being able to continue to develop, continue to press forward, overcome adversity. My goodness, back in my era, kickers weren't making 80, 90% of their kicks. So there was even more adversity to overcome. And so, you're going to have a couple bad days at the office, and being able to continue to fight forward is an important point. And so anyways, after college, I was fortunate enough to get a training camp with the Seahawks, played in a couple preseason games, had a good opportunity, but at the end of the day, probably wasn't consistent enough as a player to actually have a sustained career in the NFL. And so I used my degree, became a coach, coached football, offensive coordinator, obviously worked with special teams, and bounced around at some big high schools here in Iowa, and then for summer jobs started our camps. My father helped with our camps, and my brother Andy, who was a punter with the Steelers and at New Mexico State, also helped with the camps. And that was around 2000, 2001. The first 4 to 5 years, we actually lost money. Very, very small camps. It was training based, and to me, I just used that time as a time to learn how to coach and to learn how people react to different, cues, be able to hopefully provide proper coaching points rather than generic coaching points. I think sometimes, with foundational coaching, when you're coaching players who haven't coached or played a lot, having a good foundation is important, and a lot of the points are the same. And then as a player develops and gets better and older, more mature, been through more storms, you start to figure out trends and patterns, and trying to coach to the player is an important aspect once a player especially once they get into college, because most everybody that plays at the collegiate level has a base understanding of the core fundamentals. And then it's just a matter of can you put yourself in positions and situations where you can repeat what you've practiced so hard to be able to do.
Yeah, I love that, how you tailor each coaching point to each player because everyone's different. Okay, fast forward to you working with the Bears and the Panthers, which is a testament to how much those coaches believe in you and respect your program that you've built up and your knowledge of the game. How did you use those coaching points with multiple different types of pros? You had NFL rookies, and then you worked with some legends like Johnny Hecker or JJ Jansen. How did you use those coaching points to help those different types of players?
I've had a good mix of players that have had to coach in the NFL. A guy like Patrick Scales was a journeyman, in his early 30s as a snapper. Then I coached, Eddie, who was really talented, Eddie Pinero, with the Bears, and then also in Carolina. And Eddie was very, very talented, but also very young and unestablished, really, with some of the things we were trying to do. And then, coaching Cairo, who was, an older player, very, very coordinated, actually went against what I thought would be successful in Chicago, because everybody told me in Chicago you needed a guy with the big leg because of all the wind and the lake and everything that's incorporated with cold weather and difficult situations in Chicago, and really kind of grew my knowledge base of, man, ball striking still is paramount. Being able to call on a certain type of ball in certain situations, that's where Cairo is really good. And then, when I came to Carolina, again, I had two really great veterans in Jansen, who I think is one of the best snappers doing it. He's played, he broke the all-time franchise record number of games played. And he was unbelievable with some of the things he would do, even from certain days, the way the ball would feel and how he would grip it in order to get laces back. And he was constant professional, constantly trying to better his craft, even, getting close to 20 years in the NFL. So that taught me a lot. And then with Johnny, he's an all-decade punter. He did it for a reason. He was very, very good at what he did. And for me, one of the main things I took away was let's not try to coach a guy like Johnny up too much in the beginning. Let's establish that relationship, that pattern, make subtle suggestions. And if the athlete, like someone like him, who there's not many in the world like him, if he's asking for feedback and he's asking for, hey, I want to work on this. Why do you think? Towards the end of our second year, him and I were really hand in hand quite a bit. We always, and it's funny because I tell a lot of high school kids this, we did some of the more boring catch mold drills up and down the field, trying to sequence the hands and the catch on the snap. We did that daily and for 15, 20 minutes. And there's a guy that, again, he could get caught up in who he was and, think he's above certain things. Like, I got it. I don't have to do these things. He wanted to do these things because he felt that those were essential for his success. And all I tried to do is try to guide him. I wouldn't say he wrote the map, but with him, it was more, hey, what do you think? As opposed to maybe some of the younger players I've coached where it's like, I think we should be doing this. So it's definitely at the NFL level, a mix of personalities, of egos, of experience that league, sustained success over time is a pretty powerful thing. And you don't want to go away or try to come in my opinion, and try to change cars that are working really well. I think that gets a lot of guys in trouble sometimes when they come in and try to change too much with people who are already established, successful players.
Brace yourselves for The Kicker's Bible. The Kicker's Bible, a specialist how-to manual born from a decade of dedication to specialists and special teams. This ain't your average football book. It's the holy grail of gridiron guidance. Dive into the wisdom of over 20 NFL specialists, including Eagles Hall of Famer David Akers and 15-year NFL vet and kicking guru Shane Graham, as they answer your burning questions to become the best specialist that you can possibly be. Whether you're a peewee rookie or an NFL veteran, this book is your secret weapon to kicking success. It's out now. Go to www.icemankicking.com/books or our Twitter bio @IcemanCoaching or Amazon and search The Kicker's Bible to get your copy today. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Now kick your feet up and let's get back to one cold episode. So you're really a soundboard, allowing them to bounce ideas off you. Is that correct?
Correct.
And a lot of that has to do with the trust and the relationship you guys have built together, correct?
Yeah, I think that, when you're able to spend that much time together, day in and day out, training camp, you're in the building, those guys put in long hours. And that's something that I try to tell a lot of young players. Man, when they're going through this process, some special teams coaches, they may have 4 guys they like equally. One of the things that they'll look at, who would they enjoy being around, from basically July all the way through December every day, because generally they will see players every day at some point. They might have an off day here or there. A lot of time with these people. And that's why, again, being socially aware, that's part of this job. It really is. If you want to be successful at the highest levels, obviously being a performer is important, but getting along with your coaches and your fellow specialists. I've never met a super successful snapper that is not kind of at the beck and call of a kicker or punter. if a kicker punter wants to get work, because at least in the NFL level, JJ and Scales in Chicago, they snapped every day. So every day we practiced, they were snapping either in a period, even if it wasn't full out punt, or was might have been punt return, might have been some just getting work. They have to snap every day, and that's kind of the job requirement of a snapper. And I just feel like, man, those guys working together, liking each other, having a and I was lucky, I was fortunate at both stops over a 5-year period. All the specialists found a way to get along and not have interpersonal drama, because you start having those situations occur. I think that's going to be a shortened stay for probably everyone involved.
So, Jamie, we don't have a whole lot of time left. We'd like to do a rapid fire round presented by the Kicker's Bible. Is that good with you?
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to do start off with some questions here. What's the most memorable transition from a guy that worked out in your camp to making it in the NFL? And what qualities set them apart?
Harrison Butker's journey is a pretty cool one to follow. He was a guy that he got drafted real late, 7th rounder, went against Graham Gano, who I think is one of the best kickers in the last 20 years. Graham actually made Harrison better. Harrison at Georgia Tech was not a real proficient field goal guy, kind of a longer approach, kind of a long jab. And he ended up getting cut. They held him for the first game to protect him. Then the roster kind of numbers, they had to end up cutting him, releasing him. He had about 4 or 5 weeks to work on some stuff. And he eventually transitioned to a 2-step, which again, I tell our guys, I'm like, look, jab, no jab, to me, that's not the critical piece, because for different people, different things work. I've got as many examples of guys with the jab that have done well, has gone to a 2-step. But for Harrison, he's so long and so explosive. He didn't necessarily need that extra little head start. He needed more control. He worked on it. And I actually went to his first game in the NFL. It was a Monday night game with the Chiefs versus the Raiders, and he missed a field goal right before half. And I saw his parents, and I was like, well, I really hope he gets a couple opportunities this second half. And we just kind of looked at each other nervously, like, if it doesn't get better, he might not be there next week. And he ended up going 4 for 4 and hitting the game winner in overtime, and getting, at the time, John Gruden was an announcer, the Gruden Grinder Award. And so there's a guy, again, if he misses his next kick, he might be out. He might not be kicking in the NFL. And since then, obviously, he's gone on multiple big contracts, NFL Super Bowls, huge kicks in Super Bowls. And that's an example of a guy who was very, very talented, but he needed a little bit of time to figure out how he could be most proficient and then take advantage of that opportunity. The only reason he got that opportunity, quite frankly, is because Cairo Santos, the guy I ended up coaching later in Chicago, got hurt. And the Chiefs needed him. They brought him in on a workout on a Tuesday, signed him. He had 2 practices, and then he had to play in that Monday night game. So that story, Daniel Carlson's story, similar. When he got cut from the Vikings, came down to our house in Iowa, did some work. We adjusted some things. He had about 6 to 8 weeks to work on it. Got picked up, and the rest is history. He's been very successful as well. But there's a lot of different journeys throughout the whole period. The first real story, like you referenced, the McAfee, Morstead, Marquette King tapes. I mean, that was kind of our first group that really made the NFL. And a guy like Morstead, seeing him as a walk-on at SMU, not good enough to play in college on scholarship, had to beg the coaches for a team rep. He had to hit a 60-yard drop kick in practice in order to get one team rep. And it just so happened that day he did it, the starting kicker went 0 for 4. So they started throwing him in there. He started making kicks, and they're like, wow, that's really good. And he goes, yeah, I'm more of a punter. And within a month, they offered him a scholarship, and it changed his destiny, obviously. But it just goes to show you have to work hard and continue to be ready, because when you do get your opportunity, you have to seize it.
Sure. And I think it goes without saying, It's about making your own opportunity. Like you just said there earlier with Harrison, like if he would have missed a kick, he would have been out. So it's bowling your way or doing whatever it takes just to get that chance, to get that shot, to be successful.
Me, when you look at film and you break it down, and now we have the technology with the apps and everything else, the ball's on your foot for not even a hundredth of a second. It's faster than that. You can click on it and the ball is on your foot and off your foot for less than a hundredth of a second. And everything you're going to do leading up to that kick is so that at the moment of impact, everything is aligned right, everything is sequenced right, and the rotation and the ball coming off will hopefully give that ball a chance at going to the target that you want it to go through. And to me, I can't think of a more important time period in the actual process than that. Now, there's a lot that leads up to it. There's the mental aspect, the breathing aspect, the control aspect of being able to have that happen more often. But at the end of the day, it's still all about that moment. And then, what happens afterwards, there's some things that you can do to, follow through finish, target line, all that good stuff to reinforce good habits. But quite frankly, it's all about that moment that happened.
So you talked about mental toughness there earlier, and I know that's so important for specialists in general. Do you have a good story of that? You talked about how that played into Harrison's aspect. How do you even coach mental toughness?
So me being a player and trying to make the NFL and being around veterans and going through the process and seeing it now as a coach and really trying to learn from everybody that goes through that process. The weird thing about the NFL is it'll either make you or break you. There are no kicks that are inconsequential. It's now gotten to the point where they expect every kick to be made. I don't think there's too many times guys step foot on the field where they're like, we'll see if he makes it. If they're putting you out on the field, it's because they feel that ball is going to go through. Now, statistically, obviously, the farther back you get, conditions, whatever, there's higher percentage kicks, there's lower percentage kicks. But if you look at it, the NFL, they're over 85% makes now. It's unbelievable the consistency at long range kicks, narrow uprights. And honestly, some of the field conditions in the NFL are worse than the college and high school because the game is played a lot of times on grass in between, 18 feet 6 inches of hashes. So it's not very wide. You have huge humans tearing it up, and a lot of times the surface is uneven, and it's difficult places to get footing and to be able to make these kicks. And what they're able to accomplish is truly, truly amazing. And I don't know as if it's, we have sports psychologists who we've brought into a lot of our camps, and they have some really good ideas about focusing on the process and staying kind of not associated mentally with the pressure of the moment, trying to not focus on the moment as much as the process, and trusting your steps, trusting your breathing, trusting your technique, your cues with your snapper and holder. All of that goes into it. But at the end of the day, there's certain people, like Eddie, who I've coached in Chicago. And then 2 years ago, we led the NFL in field goal percentage, 94.3%, with a guy that's viewed largely around the league, maybe as a journeyman. He's been injured and his career has had ups and downs. But if you look at his field goal percentage over 100 kicks, he's one of the all-time leading field goal percentage leaders in the NFL. He's very, very consistent. And, technically Eddie does some things that maybe we wouldn't even coach to a normal kicker. But what he does is in the moment, Eddie gets better. And then we've always known that about Eddie. Eddie likes bright lights. Eddie enjoys the spotlight. And Eddie, when the game gets bigger and more's on the line, generally becomes a better player. And that is something, again, I think you can work on it, but some of that's innate, I believe. I believe certain personalities, certain players, they truly embrace the moment. And I see it at camp all the time. When we call the finalists together and everybody starts watching, and now it feels like it's more important. Some players step up right away and they want that moment. Other people, They do not want that moment, and they stand back, and I have to call them up. Hey, it's your turn, and you can just tell people who have a little bit more of that desire to I wouldn't say gamble, but put it on the line and be able to trust that you can live with the results. That is, I'm not sure that you can change DNA types wholeheartedly. I think you can work on things. And then obviously confidence is a huge factor. How do you get more confident? Well, you get more confident by performing in games or in tough situations. So that kind of goes hand in hand. And I think like that's why people like veteran NFL kickers is because they've been through so many ups and downs. They will generally make more of those fourth quarter kicks, and they're more at norm or at peace in those moments. Where younger players who haven't been there, it's a little bit scarier.
Yeah, well, just like you're saying, Jamie, you're trying to find guys that want that moment, and your guys' camp does such a good job of finding guys that want to be put on the spot, that want to step up and win the job. I think that's so important. Well, Jamie, I appreciate it. This has been a great time. I'm sure we could talk about this stuff for hours, and next time we'll have to get you when we got a little bit more time. But bringing everything to conclusion here, the NFL is known as a league full of unpredictability. Okay. What predictions do you have going forward for this season in the NFL?
Oh, wow. This NFL upcoming season, I think the kickoff rule will be amended maybe 2 times throughout the season. I I think that there'll be some adjustments to it. I think it's a good thing for football because we want kickoff to be a part of the game. We don't want to lose kickoff. I'd like to see more of an emphasis put on the kicker in that situation where it's required to have talent to be able to execute whatever they're going to demand of the kicker. Um, and I think they'll get there, I hope. With regards to this NFL season, I'm not sure. I don't know. I think it's wide open. I think every year is a large part who wins, who loses, depending on who can come together as a team, who can, what coaches can figure out the right formula. I think you've got to start reasonably fast. You can't win the Super Bowl, obviously, in the first month, but you can lose it. And so, just it's going to be an interesting 2024. I think obviously the Chiefs are probably the favorite, but then again, you never know. And there's a lot of good and up and coming teams, and I think it should be a good season for everybody that's interested in NFL football to watch. And I anticipate the specialists having another really good year. The punters, my goodness, what they're doing from a net perspective and obviously a gross perspective, we've never seen anything like that the last couple of years. And so, I just anticipate continued good performance. And I'm always cheering. If I'm neutral, I'm always cheering for kickers to make those game winners because you don't want some guy to have to live with the results.
I know exactly what you mean. I'm always out there. Hey, fingers crossed. Come on, baby. Don't miss this kick. This is us kickers. We need this. Okay. I don't want to see them go through that too. Do you really think, from your perspective, that they might change the NFL kickoff rule, that that's something that could happen this season?
Like I think a lot of it's gonna be trial and error. If it gets too knick-knack with the, knuckleballs, fast line drives that are trying to hit before the returners and bounce in the end zone to take advantage of that 20-yard line start, I think they'll adjust something. Now they've backed up that back row now where if they jump up and can touch a ball, that it goes to the 40-yard line. So that might change some of that scheme and some of that. But I think they're trying to figure out how teams will attack it. And I would just like personally the most talented kickers to get the best opportunities. And when you're asking a guy to have no hang time and kick it down to the 5-yard line from the 35, I mean, a lot of high school kids can execute that play almost perfectly because it'll land right where they want it to land. And to me, that takes away a little bit of the best in the world playing on a stage. You know what I mean? It's almost like from a kicking perspective, it's very anticlimactic.
Any closing statements? Anything? This has been a blast of a time. You've done a great job. Any closing statements that you want to add here?
I just appreciate you having this forum to be able to communicate some of the things that are going on right now in college football, NFL football, trying to help parents. Um, I just do feel the one thing I always talk to our campers about: if you are good enough, long enough, you will get opportunities, and that's really important that you read the room. If you're not someone that stands out, well, then you might have a tougher time. But if you stand out enough, might not happen the first camp, second camp, third camp, opportunity. But if you're good enough, long enough, you will find opportunities. And then the next key is just be ready when those opportunities come.
Absolutely, being ready when the opportunity comes. Well, I got to say thank you again. It's been a fantastic episode, Jamie. Thanks for everything you're doing for high school specialists trying to make it, or people trying to get recruited, or just the specialist world in general, man. I really appreciate you coming on. It's been a great time. That's been Jamie Kohl, the Iceman Podcast. I'd like to announce our newest sponsor, Special Teams Outfitters. Special Teams Outfitters has the newest and hottest gear for specialists by specialists. Use the code IMP10 to receive 10% off Special Teams Outfitters shirt. They've got many different options. Some new golf/specialist label gear that's really sick. You need to check it out. For all your specialist needs, go to Special Teams Outfitters. Again, that's code IMP10. Gear up with Special Teams Outfitters and stay cool under pressure. Thanks for listening. And make sure you give us a follow or a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Music if you're so inclined to do so. For any questions or suggestions on further guests, follow us at Iceman Coaching on Twitter or on Instagram, and check out our website, icemankicking.com, for updates and new talks and podcasts. Check out our TikTok for the best clips of the newest episodes. Tune in next week for another awesome guest. I'm Brett Arkelian, and for everyone at the Iceman Podcast, so long and stay cool under pressure.
Roll another one 'cause I'm winning in my photo.